Death is a brutal but necessary part of life, a transition that is guaranteed for every living thing on this planet. I'm sure if you're watching this video, this is obvious to you. You may have had someone pass away that you cared about, a relative, a friend, or a person that meant so much to you, words can't do those feelings justice. They may have passed on in the nicest way possible, but sometimes reality isn't always kind in that transition. It could occur either very suddenly or far too slowly, and it leaves you feeling numb, like it's not real, and it hasn't fully sunk in. Until one day, a small thing hits you in just the right way, and you break down. Oh man, I'm being a downer, my bad. Let's talk about video games. A form of entertainment that allows you to be an active participant. They can only continue if someone is behind the controller or keyboard. They're an art form that can be so many different things. I like to dip my toes in various types: RPGs, action adventures, the occasional hack and slash, first-person shooters, puzzle games, etc. Variety is one of my favorite things about this medium. The feeling that there's always another adventure around the corner is something that gets me so excited. But I've noticed a lot of my favorite games or experiences with them aren't always happy and fun, but moments that punch me in the gut for emotional damage. And some effective ways games can do this for me is with death. Not death as a fail state, but as an end to a performance. There are so many deaths in games that I'm unaware of or haven't experienced firsthand, but I want to talk about a few that meant a lot to me, sharing them with you to keep them alive, and you're more than welcome to do the same in the comments below. If you do, just assume it's spoilers galore down there. And of course, this whole video is a cornucopia of spoilers. In specific, I will be talking about these games. If you haven't played them yet, or don't want them spoiled, you have my blessing to peace out. I totally get it. And if the subject sounds too bleak and not something you want to engage with, that's cool too. But if you have a box of tissues ready and prepared to ugly cry together, welcome aboard. And to start, let's talk about Lord Haurchefant Greystone is a character I find myself recalling anytime Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward is brought up. A knight who dons a smile and an infectious optimism. The player meets him during a Realm Reborn, making a deal to find an airship in exchange for help clearing a friend's name of false heresy. As time goes on during the patch quests, Haurchefant grows to consider you a friend. And it makes sense. You've been there lending a hand to the concerns of Ishgard even after saving Eorzea from Garlemald. And when things go south with the Crystal Braves, when most turn their backs to you, the Lord of Camp Dragonhead shows the kind of person he is, providing you with safe refuge. People looking for you will be coldly denied at the door, and when one of your comrades has a crisis of faith, Haurchefant comes in with cups of warmth and encouraging words for the young man. Since things are pretty hectic in Eorzea, Haurchefant arranges his father to take your group as wards under House Forton. In the eyes of Ishgard, he's an illegitimate son of Count Forton. But to his father and brothers, he's a valued part of the family that is loved all the same. And through Heavensward, Haurchefant is always there for you when you need a hand on your quest, even at the end of his life. During the infamous dungeon The Vault, the group attempts to confront Archbishop Thordan VII, and as you and the knight run towards him, one of the knights tries to catch you off guard as he ends the Warrior of Light. Haurchefant denies such a fate for you.
Look out!
As the end approaches the kind knight, he says an incredibly earnest line that I can't help but love even more.
Oh, do not look at me so. A smile better suits a hero.
I think what makes Haurchefant's death so impactful is how it changes the story. In the grand scheme of the continent of Eorzea, this was just the passing of a knight. But to those who knew him, it's a devastating farewell to a brother, a son, and a good friend. And it's a way that connects you to the Warrior of Light. When most left you behind, he was looking out for you, offering a hand and the assurance that we're all gonna make it. Even in his final moments, he did what he did for you. His selfless act is what made all future successes possible. What I love about this story of Final Fantasy XIV is how the game takes time to focus not just on the grand moments of the world, but the small ones. The moments of connection that meant a lot to the Warrior of Light and to the player. The game will not let you forget Haurchefant, even hundreds of hours later. It could be a line or a mechanical moment that reminds you of one of Ishgard's best nights. On my Paladin loadout, I spent a lot of time with the House Fortin crest, and I'm not the only one. And when I think back to him, I don't think of his death, but the moments before. And I do so with a smile. Haurchefant was a narrative death planned by the developers, much like the other two deaths that will be mentioned later on. But what about one that tells a story through mechanics? They may not be as grand, but they can be just as effective for the player. With that, I want to talk about Pokemon Sapphire, and the Pokemon that holds a special place in my heart because of it. Years ago, I attempted a Pokemon Nuzlocke run. It's a challenge mode that makes the game more difficult, following two core rules. Rule number 1, the player can only catch the first Pokemon in each area. And the second, if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead and must be released. Considering myself pretty good at these games, I figured, why not? Let's try one. One of the fun side effects of a Nuzlocke is gaining an appreciation for creatures you may not normally use. There's usually one Pokemon that transcends stats and becomes the mascot of your run. In my early attempt, I caught a Wurmple. Okay, sure, welcome to the team, oh, it's a girl. Okay, your name is, Lassie. Sure, why not? At the time, I had no idea how much I would grow to love this rascal. Lassie became a fundamental unit in my team, evolving into a Dustox quickly and becoming instrumental in my strategy. Most of her moves inflicted status conditions, so I would put her first in my party, infect the opponent, and then swap her out with another Pokemon to stall for time, or deal some damage before the opponent cured the condition. Besides this strategy, there were a couple of times where Lassie got a critical hit or dodged a near-fatal move, and each time I grew to respect her more and more. I liked my entire team, but Lassie became my biggest takeaway from the run. Nearing the end of the game, I had a battle with the leader of Team Aqua, Archie. The fight was going well. Lassie used Confuse Ray on Mighty Anna. Then I planned to swap her out for Hariyama. But before I could, the Mighty Anna passed the confusion check and used Takedown. It was a critical hit. And I watched as Lassie's health bar went from green to yellow, red, and then heard the Dustox fainting sound as her bar dropped to 0. I was sitting in the back of a car when it happened, left side of the vehicle, in a restaurant parking lot before having a family dinner. And the most impactful feeling I remember is the cold stillness, like it didn't register. It happened so quickly, I couldn't believe it. It sounds absurd, but I had spent months with Lassie, loading up my Game Boy SP whenever there was time of the day, on the bus, in the cafeteria with my friends before classes, study hall, home from school, running errands, etc. She was one of my earliest team members, and I grew to like her quite a bit. And to have her taken away in a matter of seconds to random chance was unreal. My team crumbled without Lassie. We attempted to fight Kyogre, but were swiftly defeated. And while I remember being bummed about losing when we were so close to the end, with only one gym badge left before the Elite Four, I was more devastated about not seeing Lassie again. And I didn't cry, but I was bummed for a few weeks. All of this occurred in an alternate way of playing a video game initially made for kids. It wasn't a scripted moment a team of writers made to be as dramatic as possible, but one that could only be penned by the indifference of chance. And, ironically, it made it so much more personal. While she may not be competitively viable, Lassie the Dustox is one of my favorite Pokemon, and I'm so grateful for our time together. I don't think there's a character in stories I think more about than the Wanderer from Shadow of the Colossus. For the first-time viewer, you may be confused why. Appearance-wise, besides his red hair and clothing, he seems like a standard protagonist for an action game. But it's in playing yourself that you realize how far from the truth that is. We aren't told much about the Wanderer. All we know is he wants to bring a woman back from the dead and will do whatever's necessary to achieve it, traveling to the Forbidden Lands and making a deal with an entity named Dorman. In exchange for slaying the 16 Colossi, they will bring her back. But Dorman also warns him that there will be a heavy price for such an act, to which the Wanderer says, it doesn't matter. What makes the Wanderer stick in my head for years is how incredibly focused Shadow of the Colossus is on your journey. There's no side content to busy yourself with, no characters to get to know, and no skill points to increase your carrying capacity for item crafting. You can eat fruits and obtain lizard tails to improve your health and grip gauge. Your only two offerings for company are as follows. Your horse named Aggro, take care of her and she'll do the same for you, and the Forbidden Lands. If I were to describe Shadow of the Colossus in one word, it would be melancholic. This isn't a bright, colorful adventure that is all about giving the player a good time all the time, but instead, a trek through a land where civilization has come and gone. The pieces of Dorman's power, given life as the Colossi, are nested in these once significant landmarks. The boss fights are breathtaking, but also trials of the human spirit. The Wanderer is a skilled horse rider and bowman, but not very proficient with a sword. The Colossi can overpower the Wanderer easily. The greatest tool in his arsenal isn't his weapons, but his persistence. His willingness to get thrown around and push his body as far as it can go until, just barely, he gets an advantage and plunges that sword into his foe. We're not given a joyous finale when they topple to the ground, but instead, tendrils of the shadowy figure are embedded in our character as he collapses onto unconsciousness, waking up at the shrine with a new Colossi to slay as he slowly picks himself back up to perform his task once again. That is primarily how the game works, occasionally getting a cutscene with a group of men traveling to the Forbidden Lands, realizing what you've done. As you keep playing, you'll notice how the adventure is taking a toll on the Wanderer. His clothes become dirtied, his skin paler, and his striking red hair greatly diminished. It's something quietly shown to the player. You know this won't end well, but much like the Wanderer, you have come too far to stop now. You need to see it through. And it's with the final Colossi where that perseverance is tested. On a bridge leading to your final challenge, there's a gap. One Aggro can jump. So you mount up, issue the command, and the two of you run across the bridge. Aggro has been a constant throughout your journey. She came with you to the Forbidden Lands, and it was assumed you would leave them together. But this kind act for the one she loves is the last time the Wanderer will ever see her. And it's a powerful moment. I remember tearing up when I saw her plummet to the bottom. This emotional connection was achieved with no dialogue. She was just a horse, but a damn good one at that. And I think the Wanderer would agree with that as well. It's easy to pursue self-annihilation for a goal, but when those consequences are not just placed on your shoulders, but on those you care about, it's a sobering realization. That's not the end of the game, but if you're a viewer who hasn't played it yet, even if this video is filled with spoilers, I don't want to reveal that ending here. But if you ever decide to play it yourself and hit those credits, I hope you can understand why. Shadow of the Colossus is not a perfect game, but it is so focused on its experience that it's one of my favorite stories of all time. The following example isn't as focused, but shockingly, sticks the landing for it. If you've played Red Dead Redemption 2, you knew this one was coming. Arthur Morgan is one of the most personable fictional characters I have ever seen. He's a deeply flawed person, but one I enjoy spending my time with. Red Dead Redemption 2 as a game is visually stunning, but mechanically is one that is so frustrating to me. It's a game that jumps between its simulation approach of realism and linear game design that annoyed me throughout many of its main story missions, sections of optional exploration, and side content. But what saved the experience for me was Arthur Morgan. I grew really fond of him, and the excursions where it was just the two of us, taking time to hunt or unfolding my physical map to find treasure, or heading to town to get Arthur costumed for an upcoming scene were my biggest takeaways. I loved spending time with him. I wanted to see him and the gang get their footing in this new West, to give instead of taking from the world around them. But you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Dutch is a taker. Charming and clever, but he's the type of person who steals and comes up with a justification later, all in the name of a perfect utopia that can never be. The compulsion hurt the gang time and time again, and it damned Arthur to his fate. A shakedown for cash against a poor man leads Arthur to become a carrier of the man's tuberculosis. It becomes a visible death sentence in the last chapter of the game. The future of the Vanderlyn gang is gone, if it ever existed. And with this turn of fate, Arthur has two options. He can either continue as the man he's always been, a taker whose spirit is weighed down by the cruelties of his life, or a man who's realized the suffering he's caused and reaches into that pit of despair, offering his hand for those below and an apology. Not for forgiveness of his soul, but because his callousness has wronged them, and he wants them better off when he's gone. It doesn't fix everything, but he tries. He really tries, and that's what's important. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, but compassion has always been in Arthur. It's there for the gang, the outcasts, and the lost souls who have nowhere to go in a cruel world that is indifferent to them. And now, in a time where his end draws near, both for Arthur and the West he's known all his life, he lingers in the transition and reaches down to help those he can. And when Arthur passed away, as the sun rose in the sky, I remember sitting in my brother's apartment, quietly staring at the TV. I was sad that Arthur was gone, but it didn't fully sink in that I said goodbye to him. If the game continued, maybe there'd be a way to see the gunslinger again. But as I played the lengthy epilogue with a character I was pretty fond of before starting the game, I slowly realized that wasn't the case. A few days later, I was walking back from the library after studying for finals, listening to the official soundtrack of the game because video game music is incredibly cool. The song playing was Mountain High. It's got this gentle guitar in the first part and a layer of voices in the chorus, which was featured in another song as well. As I stood alone in the night, looking up at the full moon and the chorus began, it hit me like a truck, finally sinking in that Arthur was gone. And I began sobbing. To an outsider looking in, this is absurd. I was crying about a fictional cowboy from a game on my PlayStation, and it totally is. But even if it's artificial, it doesn't make those feelings any less valid. Video games are a medium that can only work with you participating. They can get you involved in their experiences. There are so many games doing different things, but when a video game explores death, the loss of a character, a friend, or even a villain, and it recognizes that they won't be replaced in the same way, that the game has to carry on without them, it's impossible not to care, especially if you liked them. Whether from random chance or narrative tension, death in video games can be incredibly effective for the player, because we've spent so much time with them, and when a game takes them away, it can be devastating. But it also shows that we're human. People want to care about things. They want to be invested and make the present matter. And death can be a wake-up call, a reminder that our position here is temporary, and to make the most of the time you're given. And when someone dies, I don't think they're gone. As long as you remember them, they're always with you. That can include the wonderful people in your life who were gone far too soon, or the stories where the character becomes more than entertainment, but legends. When I think about that night in Ishgard offering a cup of cocoa in the cold, Lassie journeying with me across the Hoenn region, the quiet contemplation with the Wanderer in Agro, or the moments of natural beauty with Arthur Morgan, I look back with a smile, because as long as I live, they will never die.